All right, guys, so I'm joined here with Ritesh. What I thought we'd chat about is just what are the biggest losses in property and I guess what are the obvious ones and maybe some of the ones that most people don't realise.
Yeah, look, when we talk about losses, Brett, I think when you talk to most people, you think the main losses are, you buy a property for 400k, let's say, and then next month, for whatever reason, the market's gone down and it's only worth 350k. We think that's a loss. I've lost £50,000 of my capital, my money. Sorry,
which is a paper loss. So but still, I mean, still a loss. If you're selling, it's a loss. You might realise that loss, but it actually, most of the time, that's not even a loss that you need to worry about because the market will come back if you bought in a good area. But
agree. But people generally do still deem that as
a loss. 100%. Yeah.
And then you've got tenant stocks paying rent. So now you're all of a sudden having to cover the mortgage every month out of your pocket. So everyone sees it as I'm making a loss. Rightly so.
I've just been in court this morning, just getting possession of a property where probably all up it's £18,000 that the landlord won't get back. The guy's been chucked in prison, and unfortunately that is a real loss.
Absolutely. And then you've got, let's say you've got a property which is starting to fall apart. So you bought an old dog, as they say, and the kitchen's starting to go. So that's £20,000 there. The bathroom's starting to, pipes are leaking, 15,000 there, and all of a sudden, you're paying, before you know it, you're paying out money left, right, and centre towards this property, and you are losing money.
And it's not just the old dogs that you buy. Actually, a lot of my new properties that I bought back in 2004, 2005, 2006, they're now like 17 years old, 16 years old, 15 years old. So some of those ones are now starting to cost me more money. And so actually, I've looked at some of them and just gone, maybe it's time to flick them on and buy something new. Which is that continual renewal strategy we talk about. Yeah.
So look, we can go on with that list. There's a few more, but these are sort of the common things that I hear, for the losses in property. But the one I don't often hear, but for me is a big loss in properties, the missed opportunities. And maybe it's something which I'm acutely aware of because, working in the industry and speaking with clients, that I was first speaking with 10 years ago, 7, 8, 9, 10 years ago, didn't end up actually taking that next step after going through 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 different options. And then I'm always staying in touch. And now I'm speaking to them 5, 6, 7 years later, and they're like, oh yeah, Rick, how'd you get on with those ones, that one, and very quickly I'm like,
And I think that's the thing is, when you talk about this sort of a lost opportunity, because we've now been going since 2004, we've got that massive history, 18 years, almost of history. So, people have come in and they've said, oh no, now's not the right time because whatever excuse, whatever reason, whatever it might have been at the time. So they put it off and they delay it. And then maybe 4 or 5 years later, they'll come back in and talk to us again. And then you're like, hey, that thing that I showed you there? This is what it is, And then, there's even people who will come back a second time and a third time, and you have that procrastination, which is just a killer, I mean, it's interesting with that. So I guess, why is that then? Why do you think that is?
Well, I think one of the main things is fear. As I say, false education appearing real. We live in a world where we're fed with so much information, with social media, the news, different data sources. And the reality is, where everybody is, in a way, trying to feed you their own agenda. They've got an agenda to what they want to happen. And if they don't want you to do this, but they want you to do that, they will start talking down other things. Okay. And we just end up eventually where everyone is so fearful of taking the next step.
And I think and sometimes we don't even realise the agendas, because sometimes the agenda is like family and they're keeping you safe. But in actual fact, what it is, it's their own limited thinking, it's their own lack of education, it's their own belief in certain things that they will pass on to you that actually may not be true in the marketplace. And I think that's, whether it be, we can talk about the news outlets, but we can also talk about the family. They're certainly the two biggest that I find, is family and friends and the media, are big reasons why people live in fear. But I guess the real trick is to replace that fear, that false education appearing real, with real education, proper education, fundamentals, and things that don't change and things that haven't changed for ages. And I guess that's always been my passion about property is, as much as we can get into the strategy and the little nuances about, paint this wall lime green or pink or, not that we do that, I'm not suggesting that, but actually what I think is more the fundamentals is what has always driven me.
And you're right, because friends and family, not saying they're not trying to. It's not like they don't want you to do well.
No.
They've got your best interest at heart. But what it comes down to is if they're not in the industry, or they're not doing it every single day, then for me, and I'm in the same boat because I've had friends and family in the past when I'm about to do something. Oh, Rick, are you sure you want to do this? I've just read that, or this happened to that person, and I've just learned not to take notice, because what I'm going to do is follow. Educate myself well, understand what I'm about to do, make sure that I understand the upside, the downside, because I think you've got to be comfortable with the risk, understand how I'm going to mitigate all the risks there, and then I'm going to do it.
And you have to. I mean, education is one thing, but you've got to take that next step of taking the education and learning how to practically apply that education. I think that's the key. I love Rich Dad Poor Dad, which is, the book, but the book is very theoretical. If you had to take that and apply it, it's actually pretty useless. Conceptually great, great concept book, but terrible to apply. And I know that's when I wrote my 3+1 plan. It was very much about, I want to introduce the concept of the 3+1 plan, but then I want to get down into the detail. How do you actually implement this? And I think that's key. You've got to take that next step of how can I put this into practical sense, And I guess, when we talk about losses, there's 1,000 different ways you can make money in property. There's 1,000 different ways you can lose money in property. The biggest ones we've really talked about today, but the missed opportunity. I mean, the procrastination, which is based in fear, which is based in a lack of education, which is based in a lack of ability to apply it, really is a massive one because we've not sold to more people than we've sold to, and a lot of that is because of their education, because of their programming, because of the media, because of the family, because of the, some of it's because we may be poor salesmen, but the reality is generally it's that education that, getting them to the point where they have certainty. And I think understanding these and understanding this missed opportunity, that, you can make money in property anytime, it's just about knowing what the rules of the game are. And part of the rules of the game is knowing mitigation factors and all that. But that's a really big one. I think that's a good set of, really frame things well. Because look, there's always going to be reasons why not to invest, but you've got to find the reasons why to invest and then find out what the rules for that particular investment are or that particular strategy and apply them. And you're going to come out on top and obviously have a long-term view, things like that.
You just stole my closing line.
Did I?
Okay. There's always going to be a little bit of anxiety, a little bit of uncertainty when you take that first step. In fact, I think that's a good thing because if that little bit isn't there, then you might be just a bit too blasé. If you're not feeling that little bit in the stomach, I'm just about to invest in maybe something which is the biggest investment since my own home. But it will go away. As long as you follow the rules of the game, get involved, it makes sense, you do it, and then your second one, that anxiety goes down there, then it goes away. Eventually you're just doing it. It will become very easy because you've lived through it.
Yeah, and I think the worst thing you do is rush into things. I think with property, if you rush into property, you're stuck with that property for a long time. It's relatively illiquid, and if you make a mistake, you might be stuck for it even longer. So you take your time, you take a few breaths, just get settled, get certainty, get educated, and you'll be fine. Long term. I say all sins are forgiven in property over the long term. So even if you make a mistake, choosing the wrong area, buying the wrong strategy, that's all recoverable over the long period. Now, we don't want to get to that situation. We want to pick the right properties up front. But cool.
Awesome.
Okay. Cheers, guys. Bye.
Bye.